Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be making a first impressions on the Manitou Mezzer Pro fork. You guys been asking for this video, so I finally got some time to sit down in the seat and make a first impressions video on this fork. For those of you that haven't seen the last video, I'll give you guys kind of a rundown on why I switched from my Fox 38 factory and kind of why I switched to this fork. So I've been riding the Fox 38 for about a year and a half now, and one thing I really struggled with was the mid-stroke support. No matter what I did, I wasn't able to get the mid-stroke support to where I wanted it without sacrificing other performance aspects of the fork. The only thing I was able to do with that fork to get it to have reasonable mid-stroke support was adding more pressure to the fork, which sacrificed a lot of small bump sensitivity. But at that point I knew it was a fork issue, so I ended up looking for a new fork. And the Manitou Mezzer Pro, has been on my eye for quite some time now. And so this was a perfect opportunity to try it out. And something that they do advertise is that this fork has excellent mid-stroke support due to its 3 air chamber air spring. Okay, so now let's get into the first impressions on this fork. My first impressions were both positive and negative, so I'll get into why. So the first thing I noticed on this fork that was substantial was how supportive this thing was. Obviously, I was expecting it to have a lot of support, but this thing blew me out of the water. I've never felt a fork so supportive, and I would argue that this is the most supportive fork that I have ever ridden. The reason you want good mid-stroke support is because if your fork is riding pretty deep in the travel, you won't get the optimal performance out of it. It's not a very ideal place to be. So the further you are through that travel, the less travel your fork has to play with when it's approaching the second bump or even a jump. You don't want it to be too high in the travel, otherwise you're not optimizing the fork's travel. But having the IRT air chamber really helps fine-tune where your fork sits in the travel without sacrificing other things such as small bump sensitivity. This is something I did also want to cover real quick, is the stiffness of this fork. I actually didn't realize this initially when I bought this fork, but this reverse arch actually makes the fork stiffer overall. And even before I knew that, I did notice the increase in stiffness. Doing things such as nose pivots or nose manuals, I noticed how much more precise this fork was. I'm gonna be honest here, I don't feel it too much on the trail. Even though this fork is a 37mm diameter stanchions versus the 38mm stanchions I was running on the Fox 38, this thing is definitely a bit stiffer than the 38 in terms of lateral stiffness. It's definitely more responsive. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the damper. So the damper feels pretty good. I don't have a lot to say about it, but coming off of the Grip 2 damper that was in my Fox, something that I did really notice in this fork was that each click made a substantial difference. So in the Grip 2, you'd have to turn the knobs like 2 or 3 clicks to feel anything. This fork, each click makes a noticeable difference, which is something that I really do like about it. I really like when people optimize these clickers to actually do things. Otherwise, when you have such a huge range that isn't even usable, what's the point even? So yeah, Manitou made it simple. You got your high speed and low speed up here for compression, and then you got your rebound down here, and they all make a substantial difference overall. So that's something I wanted to mention about the damper. Otherwise, the damper does damper things. I haven't really noticed a ton of anything really. I probably am going to try that shim stack because I am running it fully closed, and I would like to be able to add some compression to the fork. So I think if I take one of the shims out, there's I think it's a 17.5mm shim. If I take that out, it should accommodate for me being a little bit lighter. It should also allow me to adjust the compression further, since it's pretty much wide open currently. It'd be cool to add some damping. Okay, so like I mentioned, there was some negatives too. It wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. It wasn't all positive. So something I really did notice in this fork on the first ride is that the small bump sensitivity is probably the worst I felt in any fork. So my initial thoughts were that the compression shim stack was too heavy. For those of you that don't know, the Manitou Mezzer seems to come with a pretty heavy compression tune, and it seems to suit riders that are in the 180 to 220 pound range. That seems to be where it performs the best. And me being 160 pounds, I'm definitely on the lighter end. And so I thought that there was a good chance it was that. But I noticed the fork feels really good when really pushing the fork. Because obviously small bump sensitivity doesn't matter as much when you're really pushing the fork, because you're just blowing through that that portion of the travel anyway. And so that's just something I noticed right off the bat, was how harsh it was with these the small vibrations, such as like small braking bumps or just a little trail chatter. So I was about to change the shim stack, but I was talking to different people, and it actually looks like the bushings on the lowers are just tight. If you feel the fork, you can feel the stiction in the fork while pressing it down. There's quite a bit of it. And I also read up that it seems like they changed the bushings in the newer model year forks. If you guys have done much research, you'll notice that some of the earlier reviews when this fork first came out were talking about how within the first couple rides they were getting a knocking noise, and it was the bushings in the lowers getting loose. But I'm pretty sure Manitou quietly replaced them with a higher quality bushing, but they are a lot tighter. And so I was talking to my buddy Matt at Vincent Speedworks, and he was saying that his Manitou Mezzer was also super tight, and burnishing made a massive difference in terms of getting that small bump sensitivity back. So I scheduled an appointment with him. I'm going to be dropping these lowers off pretty soon, and I'm really stoked to see how the burnishing improves that small bump sensitivity. But from the sounds of it, it's going to pretty much solve the issue, and if that's the case, this fork is going to be a beast. So another thing that I did want to mention that I did notice while trying to adjust this fork, just like the SRAM transmission, there's a very specific order that you're supposed to do things to get things to work correctly. So something you're supposed to do is the fork is supposed to be unweighted while changing any air pressure. It doesn't matter if it's the IRT or the main air spring, you need to have the fork at full extension and under no weight. Something you're going to want to do is, I think laying the bike down is fine. Do not lay it upside down, otherwise the weight of the wheel and everything will be compressing the fork, and you don't want that. Basically what happens is it'll suck in its travel, and you'll have less suspension travel essentially, and the fork will just run kind of funny. It was just something I wanted to mention, since it is a bit of extra work that you got to do and something you got to think about before you start airing it up. Overall, my first impressions on this fork are pretty positive, other than the small bump sensitivity being really bad. So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if it was useful, please smash that like button down below. And if you guys would like to see more Mezzer content, again, I got to that burnishing video coming out soon. I'm really stoked to see how the burnishing affects the small bump sensitivity on this fork. Please smash the subscribe button down below if you guys want to see that video or any other Mezzer content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.